As the 1990s began, the chapel was now hitting its stride on all fronts. Now a 25-year-old ministry, the WELS had managed to successfully establish a Lutheran campus ministry presence at UW-Madison following the split with Calvary and the aftermath. Weekly constants like Vespers and cost suppers at the chapel were student favorites. Opportunities like small group Bible studies were great for helping students grow in their faith. Additionally, the international ministry continued to blossom during this time as well. The 1990s became a decade of expansion, and attention must be given to the town meetings of January 1994. These open forum meetings allowed the congregation to discuss chapel's long-term vision and to formulate a plan for the years ahead. Two noteworthy hires came out of these meetings. Judy Metzger became the chapel's first student outreach coordinator, and Reverend John Shirowski became the chapel's first full-time director of international ministry. Judy Metzger was installed in August of 1994. She was already a familiar face around chapel. Since 1990, she served as Sunday school superintendent. Judy recalled, "I knew that you tend to get the greatest response when you call. So what I did was when Pastor Trapp asked me to be superintendent of Sunday school, he gave me the stack of cards of IVBS enrollees. They were wonderful little cards because they had all the information about the parents on them, and I would just call all of them."
Yes, Jesus loves me, the Bible tells me so.
The Lord had richly blessed Judy's efforts, and the Sunday school began to experience incredible growth, tripling in size over the next 5 years. But this wouldn't be the only aspect of the chapel's ministry that would see a tremendous increase in participation. For example, Wednesday night Vespers averaged 38 in September of 1994. 8 years later, that number would be up to 100 on average. The dinners, the cost suppers, would average 8 per person in 1994. But then by 2002, that number would be up to 51 on average. Judy Metzger would serve the chapel for over 20 years as the student outreach coordinator. Pastor C began his role in January of 1996. He previously served various positions in countries like Indonesia, India, Taiwan, and had served as a foreign mission counselor and supervisor. When asked what his call to chapel all entailed, his response was simple yet profound. This is Pastor C speaking. "It's letting your light shine. We have a gospel light and it ought to be shining. To me, that's somewhat the key, is that I have the light of the gospel, and it makes me love people and want to serve them and looking for new opportunities to find others who will serve with me." He started the English as a second language ministry of the chapel, held at the Eagle Heights Community Center. Pastor C served as international coordinator and pastoral assistant through 2002. With a growing number of students getting involved at chapel, plus with the growing chapel international ministry, added to that the ever-increasing enrollment on the UW-Madison campus, the chapel was now starting to experience some facility concerns. Busy Sunday mornings meant that the chapel had to get creative with where to put all of their different fellowship and study opportunities. Carol Trapp remarked, "Part of the reason we needed a bigger ministry space was so that on Sunday mornings, the library, one office, and a room in the house next door were all being used to teach ESL Bible class, 3 to 4 groups. Sunday Bible class used half the fellowship hall, and Sunday school used the other half, as well as the TV room and an office. The Sunday school kids would walk through the 2 ESL Bible classes in the library to get to the balcony to practice music. 1998 was the year where a potential building expansion at the chapel was starting to gain some serious momentum. In February of that year, a new number of town meetings were taking place at chapel where numerous voices would get together to discuss ideas, visions, and proposals for what chapel's future ministry might look like and how the facility could be accommodated to best make that work. The chapel began envisioning a new facility to be built within the confines of 220 West Gilman Street. Fundraising for the new building project was a key focus in 2002 and 2003. The fundraising campaigns were done under the headline, "A Mission with a Mission." As a matter of fact, the Synod WELS contributed $1 million towards a building expansion project. So during these years, things were very busy at chapel between the regularly scheduled programming of campus ministry going on, and then you add to that the developments and the excitement and the work of planning a new building expansion. Not to be lost in this whirlwind of a decade is the mention of an important staff addition in 2002. Chapel continued its expansion of the international program by adding an international outreach coordinator in September of that year. Carrie Larson was hired to serve in this capacity. Carrie's impact was felt immediately. In 2002-2003, cultural ESL averaged 63 per week, and Bible ESL averaged 12 per week. Just 1 year later, those averages doubled to 125 and 23 per week, respectively. Carrie would faithfully serve in this capacity and be a blessing to chapel until her retirement in 2015. Ground was broken for the new chapel and student center on October 17th, 2004. On that sunny fall afternoon, Pastor Trapp gave a message based on select verses from 1 Chronicles 29, reminding the chapel faithful that all we have comes from God. By God's grace, once the demolition and construction began, the chapel encountered very few snags or disruptions to the building project. In 2004, the ownership of the building next door to chapel changed hands, and the chapel negotiated a rental agreement for the first floor of this facility and its parking lot, returning to the building used before the original chapel was built. Worship services and all other chapel gatherings were held here for well over a year. The chapel was blessed to have numerous volunteers involved throughout this entire process, including a number of college students.
I would be at chapel every night of the week if I could, and having this new building, we will be able to be in there every night if we want to, and I think I will be.
I'm really looking forward to the new building because I think what's going to happen is Wisconsin Lutheran Chapel is going to become more than just a place. It'll become an event. You'll have students sitting around and they're going to say, what should we do? And someone's going to say, let's go to chapel. You know, there'll be a place to do your laundry, a place to play pool, a place to study.
8 years after the idea of a building expansion first sprouted, this beautiful new edifice was ready for use. Wisconsin Lutheran Chapel and Student Center was dedicated on February 26, 2006. Friends, members, and students of this campus ministry gathered for worship on this sunny winter day and meditated on the words of 1 Chronicles 29, the same verses that were pondered on groundbreaking day 2 years earlier. WELS President Carl Gergel delivered the dedicatory sermon. Richard Balge, chapel's first campus pastor, offered a special prayer for the occasion. The new building would be a great blessing for the chapel as they carried out their mission in Madison to know Jesus Christ and to make him known on campus. Crafted in 2003, these words became chapel's mission statement. At 26,000 square feet, this new chapel and student center was over 3 times the square footage of the 1966 chapel. 37 underground parking stalls alleviated parking concerns. The first level of the new chapel featured a student center, a spacious room filled with tables and chairs for study, along with private rooms that could be used for studying or meeting. Staff offices, a library, laundry room, TV room, and welcome desk also occupied the first level. Upstairs contained the beautiful sanctuary, a lounge area, an outdoor patio, fellowship hall, and kitchen. Also upstairs was a house fellow wing of 4 dorm rooms with a private kitchen, allowing for 8 house fellows to live and serve at chapel each year. The main stained glass windows in the sanctuary feature Jesus on a hillside, speaking with characters throughout history, including some with red sweaters, hats, and backpacks featuring the Wisconsin Badgers logos. The chapel had hoped that their beautiful, spacious new student center would be used by a whole variety of different students, whether believer or unbeliever. The mentality was this, is that if we can get them into our building by offering them a quiet place to study and visit with friends, a cheap dinner, some free coffee, and a place to do your laundry, and give them a positive impression that way, then Lord willing, perhaps these students would one day have interest in seeing the upstairs, more spiritual aspects of the ministry someday soon. God continued to bless the chapel with this new building. Chapel membership grew by 54% in 5 years. Over 50 students from the neighborhood came and made daily use of the student center. Over 150 people were digging into God's word during the week between large and small group studies. Over 100 students were involved in some form of ministry each week. 90 years after its inception, the first WELS campus ministry was going as strong as ever. PT recalled as he thought back over the blessings of the 2000s. PT said, "Our new ministry confirmed Ephesians 3, that God is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine."
I am so blessed to be chatting with former chapel campus outreach pastor, Pastor Bill Limmer of 2012 to 2016. Pastor Bill, what is one of your favorite memories from serving a chapel?
Yeah, boy, as we were talking offline, right, there are just so many great memories. One of them is one of the opening nights for Vespers. One of our chapel members was kind enough, generous enough to donate T-shirts for everybody. And so we had a whiteout for that opening night of chapel. The T-shirts were laying on people's chairs as they came in, and they were able to have this chapel T-shirt as we gather around God's word. And it was cool. It was very cool.
I still have mine.